Sometime, somehow, we will be punished. Punished?
I just want to start this video off by saying that I do not condone the use of illegal drugs. What I do condone is the use of plant tools, but make of that what you will. So I wanted to talk about my first experience using acid, and it was a pretty insane experience. So the way that it actually came to me, I wasn't actually looking for the acid, it actually found its way to me. I had talked to some coworkers about some spiritual experiences that I had been having because I was experimenting with lucid dreams and astral projection. And they told me that the experiences that I was explaining sounded a lot like psychedelic drugs that they've taken. So I was like, oh, that sounds crazy. I'd like to try them someday. And they're all like, oh, that someday can be today. And I was all like, what? And they're like, yeah. And they gave me some acid. And I didn't take it for about a week. So I'm not sure if it got diluted at all, but as far as I know, my first time ever was at 100 micrograms. So first things first, if you are going to be doing these at all, and it's your first time, I recommend that you start low and you stay with someone. Staying with someone basically means like having a trip sitter around or someone that you feel comfortable with around you at all times. And a low dose is anything that could be considered a threshold dose, basically. Anything small but not so small that it's considered a microdose. You could microdose if you want to, just to get a little bit of an effect. But the goal is basically to take a dose that is enough for you to experience something, but not enough to make you full-on hallucinate. So one of the tabs that I had was basically 100 micrograms, and there was about 3 tabs total, so 300 micrograms, and I took one off so I could make sure that I only had 100. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so right when I popped it in my mouth, I straight up swallowed it. I had done some research, and I had seen that you don't have to hold it on top of your tongue like they do in the movies. They just do that to show you that they're doing it. So I was all like, oh, that's cool. I guess I don't have to like put it on top of my tongue. I could just swallow it because it activates inside the stomach. So I did that. And doing that actually made it take about an hour and a half to manifest any effects. So that whole entire time I was thinking, man, did I mess up? Or maybe I didn't get the right thing. Maybe the guys that gave me what they gave me didn't know what they were giving me and gave me something else. I don't know what I was thinking, but eventually it did kick in. It started while we were just sitting there watching TV. First, everything started to sound louder, and I was confused because we weren't turning up the volume on the TV. So the volume was getting louder, and the image was actually getting clearer. And I actually have bad eyesight, so the image getting clearer on the TV was extremely noticeable to me because usually from that distance it would be at least slightly blurry, but it was picture perfect. It was 4K, and it wasn't even a 4K TV. So the picture got clearer, the sounds got louder, and my mood just started to elevate. I wasn't hungry because I had eaten beforehand, and everything was just right with the world. At the time, I was in a good spot, so I didn't have any negative thoughts going through my mind. So it was just a pretty wholesome experience. I was with people that I love and that I feel loved around, and it was just all in all a good experience. But as soon as I recognized that I was actually under the influence of the substance, I had taken the time to compose myself and go outside just to catch my breath and just look around me to take in the experience. So around this time I was actually smoking cigarettes, So I took out my pack and I stepped outside. And once I stepped outside, it was like a complete like shift in everything, because like inside was cool because like I was around people that loved me, and it was just a cool experience because it was a familiar location. But going outside, while it was a familiar location, just being out in the world was a completely different experience than being confined within a household. Just looking up at the sky, I was able to appreciate just the beauty of everything, because everything was just perfect at the time, and I see now that it is still perfect. It's just maybe I've lost the ability to see it, although I do see it every now and then, just not as often as I did while under the influence. But everything was just so different. Like, my perspective of everything just changed because I had the time to dive deep on my perceptions of everything, because time was distorted. So 1 second was more like a minute within that time space. So with every thought that I had, I was able to focus on that thought and just really appreciate it. And I know I'm over exaggerating when I say a second to a minute, but that's what it felt at the time. But more realistically, I'd say that every second felt like 3 seconds, if that makes sense to you. So I was just outside appreciating the world, and then I took out a cigarette and started smoking, and it was pretty weird. It felt like I could breathe everything at once. And when I was taking a hit of the cigarette, it felt like I was burning way too much, and it looked like I was too. So I would control my breaths and slow down, and I only ended up smoking 1 cigarette, although it felt like I smoked 3, but I only had 1 in my hand. But eventually I decided to put it out, and I went back inside. So going back inside, I don't think that they knew actually, no, they didn't know the entire time that I was under the influence, because apparently I was still acting normal. Like, they said I was a bit, like, more giddy, like I was more stimulated to comedic things, so I would laugh more often than usual. But I'm off track. So after I went back inside and threw away the cigarette, they actually wanted me to go with them to the gas station so that we could get some energy drinks for the night. So we ended up leaving, and we went to the gas station. Like, right now it's still around daytime, mind you, but I'm just saying for later tonight, because that night we were basically gonna chill all night and do an all-nighter and play some games. So we were getting some energy drinks for later that night. So they honestly live only about 3 minutes away from the gas station, but the walk there felt like 20 minutes. Like, every step I took felt like a massive just step around the entire world. So it felt like I was just struggling to walk, although they say that there was no problems. Like, from their perspective, everything seemed fine. But I guess everything was just so slow to me that that's just what it felt like through my perspective. So eventually we made it to the gas station, and I was like, man, it took us forever to get here. And then they're like, what? Like, I guess, like, it took us 5 minutes, usually takes us 3. And I was like, yeah. So we got our energy drinks, and we ended up going back. And I was just appreciating everything, like every little thing you notice on these substances. And I didn't really have any time to introspect or, like, dive deep into my own thoughts because I was with people. So I was just basically enjoying them, and they were enjoying me. So there's honestly no problem with being with people. I'm just saying that since I was with people, my thoughts weren't focused on just messing about within my own mind. I was just worried about getting to be closer with these people because, like, I really enjoyed their company. So we ended up playing some games and we ended up watching some YouTube. And only about 3.5 hours passed, so I haven't even hit the come up yet. So maybe I'm hitting the come up? No. I was in the come up that whole time. So I hadn't hit the peak yet. I was coming up towards the peak. So I was headed towards the peak and I didn't even realize. I thought that was pretty much going to be it and it would just keep like leveling out until the 8 hours were over. But no, it was slowly working its way up. It's just that I had such a low dose that I didn't realize that it was working its way up. So this 3.5 hours pass and then my friends decide that they want to smoke some weed. So they pull out some weed and we end up smoking. And we smoke so much that they end up passing out. So one of them sleeps in the bed that, like, in the room that we were in, and the other one goes to his room and sleeps on his bed. So it was enough to make them knock out. So smoking that much along with the acid, they synergized and I got a crazy effect. It wasn't anything too intense, but it was just enough to let me know that these substances do work well together if you know how to be safe with it, if you're not stupid about it, which I was stupid about it, but luckily my tolerance was so high that being stupid about it was being normal about it in another person's perspective. So at this point, it's 4 hours in, and now everything is starting to get all wobbly. Like, my vision is all wobbly, not my movement. Somehow I'm still able to function, like, physically. It's just that I was getting open-eye visuals that were basically these wavy patterns, like going from up to down. And the more I smoked, the stronger this effect would be. So it got so crazy that I actually wanted to see what the outside world looked like. So I got a pack of cigarettes and I went outside again. And this time when I went outside, it was nighttime and the sky was so beautiful. So I was smoking a cigarette, just enjoying everything. And then my friend's cat comes out. Like, it's literally just a little cat. Name's Burrito. And this cat just comes up to me and nuzzles my leg. And then I pet this cat. And the cat runs back inside. And then I'm smiling to myself, happy, just smoking a cigarette. And then I look back up at the sky. And all the clouds had parted because it was a cloudy night, so I wasn't able to see the stars when I had first came out. But after petting this cat, enough time, or maybe it was the wind, it was either enough time had passed or the wind like blew strong enough to blow the clouds away, but I was able to see the stars, and what I saw was pretty amazing. I saw these lines connecting all the stars, like not together, mind you, like all the stars were not connected to one another. It was more like these lines were creating patterns out of the stars, sort of like the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, and all that stuff. But I was seeing it with my own eyes, and it was beautiful. But this shocked me, and I was smoking my cigarette, just saying, "Oh my God, oh my God!" And then I was just like in awe of this. Like, it was amazing. But enough time passed, and I was starting to get cold, so I put out the cigarette, threw it away, and then I went back inside. So I heard from the person that gave me the tabs that if you listen to music, like, it's a completely different experience. So since my friends were asleep and I was just by myself, I put on the Xbox headset and I turned down the TV inside of the room so that the music wouldn't be too obnoxious to my sleeping friend. And I just blasted the music to myself, and it really was an amazing experience. For the next 4 hours, my friend slept, and I just laid there on the couch listening to music with my eyes closed, and it was just pretty amazing. I honestly could have taken this time to introspect, and I probably did, but it wasn't any serious introspection. It was more like curious introspection, just like appreciating everything, you know? But the music did honestly guide that part of the trip a lot, and it guided me for about 4 hours, and it was I know I say this a lot, but it was an amazing experience, especially the end part, because that music really did guide me. If I listened to upbeat music, I would have upbeat thoughts. If I listened to slow-paced music, my thoughts would slow down, and I would feel like everything's melting. It's just an experience you have to experience yourself. Well, I just wanted to let you guys know my first experience, and I know it's not much, but it has been a while since I've last done these substances, and honestly, my first time was so long ago that that's pretty much all that I can remember. Like, that was all that was really important to me, like, important enough to remember. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that story, and I hope you guys stay safe out there.